Hi there, this is Joan-Marie Domino and welcome to my channel. I have put together 4 DIYs for you and I'm calling them Bunny Love, and you're going to see why all 4 projects have a bunny in it. I'm going to do a fun upcycle where we're going to use corrugated cardboard. I'm going to show you how easily you can separate it and then create really cute decor. Now, I also took a trip to Target and I found these cups. I thought they were glass, but they're plastic, but that's okay. I'm going to show you how to transform it into high-end looking decor. I also have 2 quick little signs that you can put up and keep these things up past Easter and well into the spring. And if you're beginners, no worries. I'm going to take you through each DIY step by step. This is a fun, quick project. Now, these wood squares, I got them from VIPPIES Designs, and you know what's fabulous about them? A napkin, a cocktail napkin, one panel fits perfectly. So you don't have to do a lot of measuring. All you need to do is find some napkins. So I went to VIPPIES Designs, and they have so many beautiful napkins. And of course, it was really hard to choose, but I love this little bunny on the blue background with all the colors. That is so spring and a little bit of fantasy. I'm only going to need 1 panel of this napkin, so I'll put the other 3 off to the side. And remember, with decoupage, we only use that top printed layer. So to get the back plies off, I put a little bit of Mod Podge on my fingers, pinch up there in the corner, and that top printed ply comes right off, and you can see the napkin fits perfectly. I did a little prep work on this already. I gave it 2 coats of white paint, let it dry, and then I did 2 coats of Mod Podge and I let that dry. So now I'm ready to adhere the bunny, and what I'm going to do is use the iron-on method. So this is a piece of baking parchment. I put that on top. That's going to protect the napkin, and there's the iron I use. It's a Cricut iron. It's green, so it's ready to go. So I'm going to run my iron across the napkin that's on the wood, and what's happening is the glue is melting, and now that napkin is going to adhere perfectly to that piece of wood. I'm going to let it cool, and then I want to hold it up so I can show you. Look how beautiful and well adhered that napkin is to that wooden square. Now I'm going to add some embellishments to this sign, and I'm going to start with the border, and this is a turquoise metallic paint I'm going to use, and a little makeup applicator, and then I'm just going to run it all the way around the edge. So I'm doing the top part, and I'm also doing the sides, so the whole thing is going to be covered. So from the side it's going to look nice and finished. So I'll go all the way around and do that, and once it's done I'm going to let it dry. See how nice and sparkly that is, but it's very subtle. Once that dries, I'm going to go into the next step, and that is to add some glitter glue. I love glitter glue. It adds a little bit of sparkle. I'm not going to go crazy with it. Now, whenever you use glitter glue, always remember to test it onto a little piece of paper, because if it clogs, it can just squirt out all over the place. And ask me how I know that. So I'm doing a little touch of yellow here and there because I see there's some daffodils. And I'm also going to go into another color, and I'm going to use this nice bright pink. If you look on that napkin, if you can look on the colors that napkin is printed in, you can see there is some beautiful bright pink. So this is just going to highlight that color. I love the glitter glue. It looks so good. It's just a little bit of extra sparkle. All right, I wanted to add just a little bit more, so I am going to use a few other embellishments. Look how pretty that sparkle is. Those flowers, it's so nice. So first I start out by putting a little pearl where his bunny tail is, and now I'm going to put on some self-stick gems. So I pulled out a few colors, and I'm just going to go around. I'm not adding a lot. I'm going to say this is just little touches of these little gems, just to add a little bit more to the sign because it's spring. And again, like I said in the beginning, this napkin has a little bit of, I would call, a fantasy look to it. And I think that the glitter and the little gems are really adding to that. For my final color gems, I'm going to add these blue, there are these little blue flowers down there on the bottom. So this is going to highlight them just a little bit. Okay, I think that that's enough of my little rhinestones. I'm going to hold it up one more time so that you can see all that sparkle and shimmer. Now it's on to doing the hanger, and I have these crystal pearls, and I decided to use them. So I'm going to take my hot glue gun, and I am using a Sure Bonder. I love it. This is the fine tip. And I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of glue up on each of the corners. And as you can see, I am going to leave just a little bit hanging off just to make it, I guess, a little bit more fancy. Okay, I'm going to trim that other side just a little bit so they're both the same length. And I want to hold it up again so that you can see how pretty that is with the little rhinestones. And Bunny couldn't be any cuter. All right, so what did I do? I got a square piece of wood from VIPPIES Designs, and the size is perfect for 1/4 of a beverage napkin. I used the iron-on method. Then I went ahead and added some glitter and some gems. Well, I hung up my little bunny sign, and I wanted to tell you that I did add a few more little finishing touches. You can see that I made a little loop on the top, and then I added a pearl in each corner, just like I did with the little bunny's tail. I also want to remind you, you can put a sealant on this first if you want. This is a wood circle I got from VIPPIES Designs. I'm going to make a little sign out of this. So the first thing I did was go ahead and take a look at some of the napkins VIPPIES Designs has, and they have tons and tons. And I want to do something for spring, so I'm looking at florals. But I'm looking at another thing. I'm looking at napkins that will fit on something that is round. If you take a look at this bunny, if I put that onto the circle, I'm still going to get some of that beautiful floral. All right, so I'm going to show you what I got, but first thing I'm going to do is give it a coat of paint, and I am using white linen chalky paint. I buy big containers, so I put the paint into little containers, plus it keeps it more fresh. So I'm using a sponge pouncer, but I'm actually going to use it to spread the paint around. So I'm going to cover the entire thing, but as I'm looking at this, I can see I am going to need a second coat, so we're going to let that dry. And to speed up the process, if you want, you can go ahead and use one of these heat dryers. They do a pretty good job, especially with paint. Now that the wood is dry, I'm ready to put on my second coat, and I'm putting it on the same way as the first coat. I'm using my sponge pouncer, and this is going to give me really good coverage. When you have good coverage of paint underneath the napkin, the colors really pop. All right, I'm going to let that dry. And again, you can use your heat dryers to speed up the process. Works really good with paint. All right, now it's time to put on Mod Podge, and I'm going to give it 2 coats. Okay, this is coat number 1. Now, as I put the Mod Podge on, I want to explain something to you. I probably don't emphasize this enough. When you are going to be doing the iron-on method, which is what we are going to do, I always put 2 coats on, and there's a reason for that. I want to make sure the entire piece of wood is covered. And if you go in one direction and then go into another direction, or the opposite direction, then you're going to know you're going to get really good coverage. Ahead and did 2 coats of Mod Podge, and ta-da! This is the napkin that I'm going to use. It's a bunny inside a forsythia wreath, and I'm only going to need 1 panel. And remember, with decoupage, we only use the top printed sheer ply. I'm going to put it down, and you can see how important it is to have that bright white paint underneath. All right, I'm going to hold down the napkin. I'm also trying to line it up. Now, since we're doing the iron-on method, that's going to mean a piece of baking parchment on top that's going to protect the napkin and the iron. And there's my favorite iron. It's a Cricut iron, and when it's green, that means it's ready to go. And I do have it on the highest setting. And now I'm going to start to run my iron across the rabbit, across the piece of wood, and what's happening is the glue is melting underneath the napkin, and the napkin is adhering perfectly. And whenever you're doing the iron-on method, make sure you go right up to the edge. Always let it cool. And let's take off the piece of parchment. So I want to hold it up, and it's absolutely flat, but notice how the colors pop with that white paint underneath. And now we're on to removing that excess piece of napkin that's hanging off. Like, you can use a scissor, but I find using a finger sander the best and the quickest. And the little pieces of sandpaper can be replaced when one wears out, and you get like a ton of them. I put the link below. Just doing a downward stroke, and I'm going all the way around, and that piece of napkin, that extra napkin, is coming right off, and I have a nice clean edge. I want to put a little border around the napkin, around the edge of the circle. So I have a Memento stamp pad in Dandelion, and this is a little sponge pouncer, and those little pieces of sponge, they last actually for a while, but they come with replacements. So I'm going to tap it into the pad, and as you can see, I'm just doing a little bit of test on my blotter there to make sure I have the color. And all I'm doing is going around the edge, and I think that this is giving it a little bit extra, or else we would have had really a lot of white. So the yellow is a nice little touch. And when I'm all done, you always want to let stamp pad ink, like any other kind of paint, some time to dry. All right, now I'm going to talk about some sealants, because I know I get a lot of questions on this, and probably because I don't use sealant all the time, but you can. On something like this, it's going to go on the wall. Nobody's going to touch it. I'm not going to put a sealant on it. But you can use Door Clear. It's one of my favorites. It comes in different finishes, has very low odor, and it's a brush on. However, when you do something flat and you use the iron-on, I really recommend a spray. Light coats, maybe 3 or 4. Let it dry between each coat. I think it's going to prevent wrinkles, which happens when we use a brush on, especially with the iron-on method. Now I'm going to add some florals on top, and I believe I got these from Michael's. I didn't get these from the Dollar Tree. So I'm using my hot glue gun. Again, I use a Sure Bonder glue gun. That is the fine tip. I love it. So I cut them in different lengths, and the bottom ones are going to be longer. And then to add some fullness, I cut the same type of greenery, the same leaves, in a little bit shorter. So as you can see, I do have a lot more fullness there. Okay, that looks good, but I'm going to add some more, and I'm going to show you. I added some darker green leaves, and that's forsythia. I also got that at Michael's. Now, this is a piece of fabric strip, cotton. It was too much white, so I just took my dandelion stamp pad, and I just ran it over just to give it a little bit more color. All right, this is how I put my hangers on. For me, I have the best length, and then I get it into the right position. Okay, so first I hold my sign over it. Now I'm going to take my glue gun. I'm just going to put a little dot on, and I'm going to take my sign and just press it down on top. And I love that. Now I have the right length. All right, so what did I use? A round wood from VIPPIES Designs, and of course one of their beautiful napkins, and it's got a nice round shape, so it fit perfect onto the round wood. I used the iron-on method, a little bit of stamp pad around the edge, and added some florals, and again, that little piece of fabric hanger that was white cotton, and I just added some of my stamp pad to it, and of course I used Mod Podge Decoupage glue. My little bunny side is all done, and now that I've hung it up, I'm really glad I did that yellow around the edge using a stamp pad, adding the greens, and that little bit of forsythia at top really gives it a nice finishing touch. So if you're new and you've never tried the iron-on method, I hope that you'll give it a try now. Okay, this is so exciting. I started using corrugated cardboard to do some crafting. This is one of the first projects I did. I made this little planter. The only problem is getting to that corrugated part without it just being, it's hard to do. A lot of it sticks to it. Look how it's all bending. Now, I like when I'm able to pull off that top layer and get to that corrugated cardboard without working on it and bending it like that. Well, I have figured out a way to do that, and I want to share it with you because I'm telling you, I have been having so much fun creating with this corrugated cardboard. Wait until you see some of the projects I have coming up. As a matter of fact, the one I'm going to do after I show you how to separate it, wait till you see. All right, here's how to do it. You're going to hold the piece of cardboard, not horizontally, vertically, just like that. So the channels are going up and down. So I'm taking some warm water and I'm kind of letting it run down those channels. And now I'm going to start to peel away one of the top layers, and look at that. As the cardboard gets wet, that top sheet comes right off. You're just going to lay that flat and let it dry. And once it's dry, you can create some really fun projects. All right, this is a project I'm going to show you how to do. And you can see I'm using the corrugated cardboard. Well, here's a big piece that I already did, and it's nice and dry. This is a pattern I created. I actually used a carrot I got from the Dollar Tree, and I made this pattern, and then I just traced it onto the back of the cardboard. Of course, you don't want to try to trace it on top of where the corrugation is. That's really difficult. I'm using a pair of these heavy-duty scissors. I'm going to give you the link for these. They're not very expensive, and they work so well with the cardboard, and actually they work really well with thin wood as well. All right, I'm just about done with the carrot, and I'm going to flip it over so you could take a look at it. Look how clean that is. See, that water method really works. All right, now I'm going to do the carrot top, and I'm going to do it the same way. I have these great scissors. They work so well on cardboard. And I'm just going to cut that greenery part out. And now I have all three pieces that I'm going to now paint, all right? So I have a little bunny and the carrot top and the carrot. Now I'm going to add some paint, and these are the three colors I'm going to be using. That's my linen white Rust-Oleum in chalky. That's our chalky paint. That's going to be for the bunny head. Then I have this, for the carrot, a red rust color paint. I'll show you that. I'm not really sure if you can still get it, honestly, but any orange paint's going to work. And then the Waverly Moss green. All right, now one thing I want to talk about before we go ahead and do this is mixing the paint. I know some of you say, no, just roll it, but I found that rolling it really didn't mix it. I just take the extra minute and give it a stir, but that's just my preference. So here's the carrot, and I'm going to paint that first. This is the orange rust paint I was telling you about. I've had this for years. I think you can still get it. I'm not sure, but there's something in it that gives it a lot of texture. And again, I think any orange paint you have is going to be fine. So I'm just going to spread it all over the carrot. I'm going to make sure I get it into the grooves of the cardstock, and I'm going to let that dry, and it's only going to need one coat. Now I'm going to move on to the carrot top, and I'm using the Moss Green by Waverly. And again, I did start, and I just want to go back to the orange paint really quick. I'm going to look up and see if I can find it. And if I can find it, I will put the link for it below. But again, you don't have to use that paint. You can go ahead and use any orange paint. All right, I'm doing the carrot top the same way as I did the carrot. I'm making sure I'm getting all the paint into the grooves of the corrugated cardboard. And then I'm going to go ahead and let that dry. And they're all painted and dry. Those are the three pieces that are going to go inside this frame. This is a frame I got from the Dollar Tree a long time ago, and I'm going to do the outer part, the actual frame part, in this blue. I think it's called Turkish blue. I'll look it up, and I will definitely put it down there below. Now, because the frame is white, this is only going to need one coat. And I want you to take a look at the gold, those ornaments, and the Murray and Bright, because I didn't want it on there. I was afraid you're going to be able to see it when I put the napkin on. So the frame is all dry, and I removed all of that gold. I just used my finger sander. It was a little bit raised, so it really wasn't much of an effort to get it all off. I'm going to paint the inside part, and I'm going to be using Waverly white chalk paint instead of the usual paint I use, which is the Rust-Oleum chalky. That's a thinner paint. This paint is thicker. In fact, it's a lot thicker. And as I put this on, I realized that even though this is thicker, it's still going to need two coats. Now, I have to say, while I was putting this on, I definitely didn't pick the right brush. This brush was really stiff, and when you have a paint this thick, you need to have a much softer brush. All right, so I went around, I went up to the edge, and I tried not to get any onto the frame, but it really doesn't matter. I'm using cardboard. This can be a little bit rustic. All right, that is going to need a second coat, so I'm going to let that dry. And now that the paint is dry, and I did two coats, I'm going to put the napkin on. Now, this was just, I guess, luck, because when I cut the napkin in half, it fit perfectly. All I had to do was shorten it. So I'm going to put some Mod Podge just on top of the white paint. And I'm going to spread it on, and I'm actually going to do two coats. Now, I'm doing 2 coats of Mod Podge. I'm going to let each coat dry because I'm going to be using the iron-on method because the napkin is going to adhere the best inside that frame. All right, 1 coat is done. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to go ahead and add a 2nd coat. I'm going to start to put the 2nd coat on. The 1st coat is dry. Now, when I do the iron-on method, it's really important that you put 2 coats on because you want to make sure the entire surface is covered. When you leave any of the surface without Mod Podge, a lot of times what happens is when you go to seal it, that's exactly where you're going to get a wrinkle or a bubble because there's no Mod Podge underneath. Now that the glue is dry, I'm ready to add on the napkin, and I just want to tell you this beautiful napkin, it came from VIPPIES Designs, and I can actually do 2 signs. It's absolutely beautiful, and it matches the paint, and it matches the corrugated cardboard, the carrot, and the little bunny perfectly. All right, first I need to do is I need to iron the napkin a little bit because it does have a crease in it. I'm not going to take the napkin apart yet. I'm going to put a piece of parchment on top, and then I'm just going to run my iron. It's a Cricut iron over it just to get a couple of those creases out so it's nice and flat. And I am going to let it cool. And there, yes, that's much better. The blue in the napkin really pulls out the color in the frame. It was a really good choice. All right, remember with decoupage, we only use that top printed ply, so I'm just going to take those back 2 plies off. And now I'm going to lay it down inside the frame. And once I have it in the frame, I'm going to put down a piece of baking parchment because, again, I'm going to use the iron-on method. Now, I want to point out that I am using a crafting iron. I know this one is a little higher end, but it works really well. As you can see, I'm getting right up into the sides and right into the corners because I am using a craft iron. Something like this, you really can't use a household iron. So I'm going to say a little craft iron is for crafting. Remember, you want the right tool for the right job. You could pick up a small iron that's pretty cheap from both Amazon and from Walmart. Just make sure there's no steam. All right, I took off the piece of parchment, and this looks great. There is no crease on it, and it's flat, and it looks really well with the color of that frame. Yes, that is just pulling that blue out. I love it. And I absolutely love the colors of this on top of it. I think it's a little bit different than what you would expect. All right, look at that bunny face. I didn't know what to do. So I actually used thread. If you had embroidery floss, that would probably be a better choice. I didn't have any. All right, now I'm going to take some glue, some of my hot glue, put it on back of the carrot top. I left the carrot down there because I wanted to make sure I got the carrot top in the right position. And that looks good. And then I'm just going to press down. Don't press too hard, but actually that paint makes the cardboard kind of stiff, so it's really more durable than you think it's going to be. All right, hot glue on the back of the carrot. And I'm going to flip that over and put that underneath the carrot top. And again, I'm just going to press it down really well. Now, after that cooled, I found that I still had to go back in and put a little bit more glue under the carrot. Now it's time to put on the little bunny head. I really like the face. You know, that's always very important to me. Whenever I'm doing anything like a bunny, I like the face to be really sweet. And I think it looks sweet there with the thread. But again, embroidery floss would probably be better. But I like it with the thread. Still looks cute. All right, I'm going to place the bunny down on top of the carrot top and the carrot. I'm going to go across both, and then I'm just going to press it down, and that's adhering really well. Now I'm going to add this little sign I made. It says spring, and I just did that in my own handwriting, printing actually, and it was fine. And I'm going to put it underneath the rabbit, make sure it's not upside down. And that looks about good. And I like using spring because I want to leave it out probably past Easter. And I want to hold it up so you can see. And again, I think the colors are really good. And that background wallpaper, it is just a little bit different. Here's a fun way to make carrots with the corrugated cardboard. I painted the top part green and then the part underneath in orange. And now I have a shape of a carrot that I traced on the back of the cardstock, and I'm just going to cut it out. But when I cut out the carrot, I'm actually going to go past the top of the carrot because that's going to be where the greens are on a carrot. Then I took my scissor and I just started cutting down little strips. Of course, I'm not cutting them off. I'm leaving them attached to the orange part. And that's going to be the carrot top. And once I have them trimmed to the right size, I'm going to do that side now. I'm just going to kind of spread out the top, and I think it makes a really cute carrot top and a really cute carrot. And I'm going to make a few of these. I think I have another one. There it is. And I'm going to place them as like an embellishment down there on the corner of the picture. I'm just going to place one down so you can see. I did add a few more finishing touches. As you can see, I put a little bow under the bunny's head. I love how that came out. Again, just a nice little added touch. To hang it, I did put on wire, and I actually painted the wire with rust color paint so it would tie in with the rusticness of the corrugated cardboard. And there at the bottom are the little carrots that I made. Take a look at this cup. It's so cute. Look at the bunny and all the designs on it. I got this at Target, and when I first saw it, I thought it was glass, but it's plastic. And I picked it up and I thought of something we could do to transform it using chalk paint. Chalk paint adheres really well to smooth surfaces, and that includes plastic. So this is a folk art, and it's salmon coral. It's the perfect color. So I am going to put on a coat of the salmon coral paint, and I mixed that paint, by the way, before I started to use it. And as I'm going around, I can see that it's doing a great job, but it's still going to need a second coat. So I'm going to go all the way around the cup, and then I'm going to let it completely dry. Now that the cup is dry, I'm ready to go in and do my second coat, but I want to hold it up and show you. You can see the transformation just by the color alone. Okay, so here goes coat number 2 of the salmon coral chalk paint, because remember, chalk paint adheres really well to smooth surfaces. And you know what I'm liking about this paint? It's got a nice matte look to it, and the more I paint this, the more I'm getting the feeling this looks just like a terracotta pot. Okay, don't forget, you want to do the bottoms on these projects too. All right, I'm all done. I'm going to put it off to dry. Now that the paint is dry, it really looks like a terracotta pot, especially like the expensive ones that have designs in them. I'm going to be using some Craft Smart. This is a gel stain, and the color is walnut. You're also going to need handy wipes or baby wipes. Something that's going to be damp will work best. I have an old rag, and I'm going to dip it into the cap, which has some of the gel stain on it. And I'm going to start to rub it on top of the cup. And as I do this, I'm working it into all of the little grooves and into the designs, because I'm going to want some of that to stay there. And I'm also working quickly, because when I go on to the next step, I don't want the stain to be completely dry. So I'm going to go all the way around the pot. And once I've gotten all the way around with the stain, I'm going to go on to my next step. This is going to involve that baby wipe or handy wipe, wet ones, whatever you want to call them. Now I'm going to start to remove the stain. And what's happening is some of the stain is staying behind around the frame and around the rabbit and the design that's on the top and the bottom of the cup. I'm going to hold it up so you can see. See how the stain is right around all the designs? That's the walnut stain. You can do as much of this or as little as you want. Now, plastic cup cost me $1 from Target, and now I want to show you the complete transformation. Here is the cup now transformed into what I want to say is an elegant, high-end looking terracotta pot. I put in some florals and I added some carrots. I got those from Dollar Tree. And now that I'm done with this, I want to go back and talk about sealant, okay? DuraClear is one of my favorite sealants. It's low odor and it's brush on. Now, do you want to put a sealant on that? Really depends upon what you're going to do. I'm not going to put a sealant on it because I'm using faux flowers. If you want to use this as a vase and put fresh flowers inside the pot, then you definitely want to put some type of sealant on. And since this is a matte finish, I do a matte sealant. Now that this cup is done, I can't help but step back and look at it and think to myself, wow, that really doesn't look like $1 plastic cup. So it's amazing what a little bit of chalk paint and some stain can do. I had so much fun with these that I went ahead and did other transformations, and I'm going to go ahead and put that up on my Facebook page and my Instagram. And there you go, 4 Bunny Love decor pieces that I painted and used decoupage, and one of my favorite methods, which is the iron-on technique, and I took you step by step. If you are new to my channel and a beginner, I want to say welcome, and I hope that you will subscribe to my YouTube channel, Decoupage DIY with Joan-Marie Domino. Give me a thumbs up, share with your friends, leave a comment, and hit the little bell down there so you will get future video upload notifications. All of the products I use, I put links below, and of course my napkins and my signs came from VIPPIES Designs, www.vippies.com, and don't forget you can follow me on Facebook and on Instagram.